What's up, people? So, as I promised, I am going live. Although I am not going to post this as a live, I'm going to post this onto my YouTube. Because what I promised is a little bit of my life story. So, I'm waking bacon. Well, waking afternoon bacon. My schedule is a little different than the normal 9 to 5. I actually work 4 p.m. to 12 at night, so I do all my other projects during the day. So right now it doesn't matter what the fuck time it is, but it's my afternoon and bake, and I'm going to give you guys a little history on my background, my life story, because I do have a lot of new subscribers and followers that haven't heard it yet. So before I start that, I do have some OG Kush from Paradise Vapes, OG Kush, and Gelato 41, my wake and bake this morning. So take a little hit of my OG Kush, and I'm going to tell you a little about Tragicamerica. Well, I was born in 1985 in Brooklyn, New York, to a mother and father, great mother and father, and a sister. Sister is 16 years older than me. I'm not gonna, give details and all that, but big Italian family, grew into a lot of love, Now, as I said, my sister is 16 years older than me. So by the time she was married, I was 3 years old. At that point, her husband ended up getting a job in South Florida. My dad had retired, so we moved to South Florida. I was 10 years old at that point. And big difference, let me just say that, coming from Brooklyn to South Florida. And I didn't know that at the time. We moved to Boca Raton, Florida. As I was growing up, my mom used to always tell me, listen, don't get in trouble down here, because there's a lot of people and a lot of your friends that have a lot of money, and you're going to be the one to get in trouble, not them. And she was absolutely right. Most of my friends were very, very rich, from rich families. The kids I went to school with, kids I hung out with. And I went down the wrong path. I started smoking cigarettes. I started, actually, first drug I ever did was LSD, which, I could talk about that for hours. But it was on the way to school, my freshman year, and I took a tab of LSD on the school bus. And that was a hell of a day, let me just say that. And that grew an obsession into LSD and marijuana. And anyway, I was an honor roll student, a straight A student, all the way up until 8th grade. I started with drugs and being part of the cool crowd and caring all about that. Then the pills came and the cocaine, and then the trouble came. Then the OxyContin came. Okay? And that is when everything kind of shifted down here. I remember one of my best friends pulled up one day. We had licenses at this point. We were driving around causing havoc. And my best friend, I wasn't on painkillers yet, but he was, because he had an older brother and he was doing OxyContin 80 milligrams. And this was probably about, 2004, 5. And I remember he pulled up in his pickup truck and he was frantically taking apart his pickup truck, just ripping it apart. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And he was looking for a quarter of a pill. And I'm like, man, what the fuck does this, for you to be going this crazy for now 45 minutes, literally tearing the seats out of your car for a quarter of a fucking pill, how powerful is this fucking pill? So I'm calling him a fiend and this and that and yelling at him, blah, blah, blah. And one by one, all of my friends got onto that pill. And then I got onto that pill, and that pill is OxyContin. And I remember the first day I did OxyContin and the way I felt, and how it just felt like a void being filled. And I was hooked. I was immediately hooked. And it was crazy down here at that time, man. I went to a rehab. I went to a detox, get off of it. And during those years, South Florida was getting more and more just flooded with painkillers. There was literally a painkiller on every corner in Palm Beach and Broward. So now I'm about 18, 19 years old, and I'm seeing this. I'm finding out that, look, I don't have to buy these pills off the street. All I need is an MRI. So I get an MRI. I remember it was one of the most happiest days of my life at that point because I saw there was actually something wrong with my back. Now, being a 21-year-old, kid, I didn't feel the pain yet. But I remember going into that doctor with that MRI saying, I'm in pain, doctor. I got anxiety all day. I didn't even have to go too much into it. I left that office that day with 60 Oxycontin 80 milligrams, 240 Roxy 30 milligrams, 90 Xanax 2 milligrams, and 4, Somas. Enough to basically kill the full-grown fucking elephant I left that office with. And I was, at that time, 21 years old. Then I started to see, hey, I don't have to just go to this one doctor. I can go to the doctor on the next street, buy the pills right out of his office, and that doctor's not even going to know. And that kind of blew my fucking mind. I'm like, hold on a second now. I was green then going into it. And so I started seeing 2 doctors, and, then I started selling pills to support my habit. And then it grew. I started to see the same people. And then, I started to go to more, crooked doctors. And I remember one was literally a pain be gone with a little big fucking bumblebee on the screen, on the side, a bumblebee, security guard, all that shit. Anyway, I start seeing in the office people from Kansas, Kentucky. 90% of the office was not from Florida. And the nurses were literally pushing them through like cattle. Vitals, boom, prescription, doctor, out the door. So then I, found out basically what they were doing, bringing it down there, selling it for double the price, and basically Broward and Palm Beach County was supplying 90% or 100% of the fucking United States with Oxycontin and Roxys at that point. Now, I get into the life. My habit is just growing ridiculously. 25 fucking Roxys a day, 10 Xanax bars. I have, the girlfriend with me that I'm supporting. I'm seeing at that time 5 doctors at my most. I had someone else that I was taking to 5 doctors. I had my girl I was taking to 5 doctors, and I had a drug dealer that was running me pills. And I still couldn't keep up. I got big into the selling, big into the using, more of a user than a dealer. But Oxycontin and Roxy's destroyed my whole life, along with Xanax. Destroyed my whole life. And pretty much everyone that I've known and grew up with destroyed their lives. Now, yes, a lot of us came back from it. A lot of us died from it. I saw families ruined. This didn't just happen to your normal everyday drug addict. This was your average Joe, your construction worker, bagel shop owner that I knew personally. Him and his brother got involved with Oxycontin, literally ruined their whole family. Brother's in prison right now. He OD'd, died. They lost the business. This happened to so many people down here. Just average working people that were never addicts in their lives. And their doctor gives them Oxycontin, and it skyrockets and turned into a fucking hellhole of a mess. And if you want to see more information on that, you can watch the Oxycontin Express. And that'll give you a lot of information of kind of how it was back then. But I was into that, got into that, fell into the addiction, and when I was 25 years old, I got into a car accident, and I hit a man on a motorcycle, and the man died. And I had Oxycontin, Xanax in my system at the time of the accident. So I ended up doing 7 years in prison for DUI manslaughter as a direct result of that. And from there, I learned a lot. I did take that time to learn, to educate myself. I took sociology, psychology courses. I got my CAS as a certified addiction specialist. I got the interaction just with all these different personalities that very, 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 very much helped as I took that course. So I went into prison knowing two things. Like, look, I could either take this one way or I could take this the other way. Because let me tell you guys something. Prison is not rehabilitation unless you put the effort to rehabilitate. Or, thankfully I had family that was helping, sending me in courses, and, I had links to the outside that was helping me, because people in there that don't, it's very hard to rehabilitate. Okay, so I was blessed, and I did make the choice. I took advantage of that. I got out, made a mistake getting out, got in a relationship very fast with a girl that I met in work release. Not the best idea. Didn't end up the best, but hell, everything happens for a reason. And now the time I'm away, think about this, guys. I'm away. When I went away, the first iPhone was coming out. Okay? Now, when I got out, it's what, iPhone 8, 9? I don't know. Technology boomed. The world has completely changed, and now I'm out. And I start the Tragicamerica project, and I'm doing the best to better myself, and then I have a just shock come to me. I'm hit with a wave of depression. I don't know what's going on with me. It ended up being a chemical reaction to the medication I was on, and I was in hell for 6 months. And I talked about that on another live on my podcast as well, so I'm not going to get too much into that now. But who am I now? What am I trying to do now? Well, let me tell you what I do. I'm a writer, published poet, and I still do that. I love making films. I went to film school in Orlando when I was 18 years old. FMU, Florida Metropolitan University, and that was in the midst of the Oxy thing, me trying to run away from myself. Went to Orlando and, of course, found it there and wherever else I went. So I spent many years in between that. This was a summer. I spent many years in between that, going through pain, suffering, running away from myself, and just being an asshole. Eventually it led me to prison, got out, and now went through what I went through. I'm here. I'm doing the Tragicamerica project. I was in shock. I could say the first year I was out, I was just so locked away, and not even prison-wise, but locked away for the 7 years I was away, and for the years before that I was in my own world, with oxys and roxys and drugs, and so I was pretty much locked away for about, 10 years. So think about being locked away for 10 years, not looking at the news, not knowing anything but your little world, and then getting out and seeing the world, boom. Next thing happens, COVID hits, and the election, and the Capitol riots, and people are streaming on iPhones and talking to each other in real time, and I don't know anything about any of this shit. So Tragic America, what I did see is let me stop for a second and take another hit, because I'm stuttering. Slow down. What I did see when I got out as a positive, and that I was very, very happy about, was marijuana was medically legal in Florida, and it was recreationally legal in many other states. Many more states than when I first went away. So I was extremely happy about that, and that was one of the first things I did, was get my marijuana card. And COVID had hit, but the good thing about that was they did not close down dispensaries. Dispensaries were, what do they call it? They were necessity or whatever. They had to remain open because it was medical. So it gave a lot of people time to really learn about strains and which strain is better for them and their condition, their ailments. And it gave me time to do that and research that and kind of research everything that happened while I was gone on the subject. And that's kind of how Tragic America formed. During a time where I got out, I saw where America was. I was very happy about where we were with marijuana. And I started Tragic America. So I started doing interviews, started back with my poetry, started making reels, started really getting into this project. Had a 6-month halt, got sick, came back, and I'm back at it now. And this is a short summary, guys. This is where I'm at, and this is what I'm going to be doing with the platforms. My podcast is on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, and every other streaming platform, and it is the Tragic America podcast. And I'm going to be putting 2 episodes out a week. It's going to be Monday and Friday morning. On there, we're going to be talking about different subjects. Anything from, news, global issues, to self-help, myself, things I'm doing to help myself in my life. We're going to have guests on there, possibly a co-host soon. Going to be doing a lot of collaborations with the podcast. And that is what we're going to be doing the podcast route with Tragic America. With YouTube, we're going to be doing something a little different. And that's where I'm posting this video onto now, to YouTube. With YouTube, we're going to be working on more of a subject. We'll have a subject, and going to be putting a video out to 2 videos a week on YouTube on that subject, as well as the podcast is going to get loaded onto YouTube too. Now, I don't know if we're going to be filming the podcast live, or I'm just going to put the audio on some visuals for YouTube, but I will have the podcast on YouTube within the next 2 weeks. Most important right now, guys, Spotify, whatever your streaming service is, Spotify, Anchor, Tragic America podcast is going to be on there twice a week. So I'm going to be putting most of my work into the podcast and loading all that on YouTube. Instagram, I am going to still be using for lives, especially now that I am not blocked anymore on Instagram. But like I've said before, with Instagram and using that for a lot of my content, sometimes I feel like I am walking on ice that might melt on any second. So, I spread out my content. So YouTube, I am going to be posting a lot more as far as my interviews. I'm going to be putting on YouTube. As far as the podcast, whether it is video or just audio, I'm going to have that on YouTube twice a week. And Instagram is going to be for my poetry. It's going to be for some lives. I'm still going to be doing lives on Instagram. I have a lot of people that I'm going to be collaborating with on IG as well. And we're going to be doing stuff on other platforms too. And we're just going to see where it goes, basically. But today, this was a history, a little background on who I am for some of the new followers, some of the new subscribers, and for the people that have been following and subscribed to my channel. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you. And I will do my best to evolve my art into the best that I can possibly make it and be the best person that I could be. So thank you for all the support, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on for now. So I'm going to load this onto Instagram, and then I'm going to put it on YouTube, because that's what I promised. I promised it to go on YouTube. So subscribe to my YouTube channel. The link is in the bio. Also, as I said, Spotify, Anchor, any streaming platform, the podcast is going to be pretty much live now, 2 days a week, Mondays and Friday mornings. So you'll see all that there. Instagram, I will be still using for my poetry, as I said. And if any of you have requests for personalized poetry, go ahead and shoot me a DM. For those of you who do not know what personalized poetry is, I'll give a little bit of a explanation summary of that as well. Personalized poetry is something that I started doing about a month ago, where I'll speak to, doesn't matter who it is, a friend, someone will come to me and he'll say, hey, I want a poem for my brother, my sister, my wife, my girlfriend, my grandmother, and they'll express to me their feelings, kind of, which way they want the poem to go. I'll talk to them for about 20 minutes. Then I'll write the poem. I'll show it to them. They'll read it, and I'll do a couple of revisions maybe for them, and they'll send it out. They'll give it to whoever it is in their family. And that's personalized poetry, and thank you for everyone that's been supporting me with that. And I love that because I get to learn not just about, whoever I'm working with while doing the poem, but also their loved one. It's great. I love it, and it's my perspective. They get to give their loved one my perspective on just how they feel, and it's a way for them to express themselves through art that they might not be talented in poems. So think of it as art, but poems for your loved one from you to them. And I probably fucked that up, rambled on too long about it, but that's personalized poetry. But to stay up to date, guys, I will be posting everything on Instagram as usual. But podcast. That's what I will be working on. Twice a week podcast. We're going to have different subjects. We're going to be talking about everything from PayPal, the new PayPal agreement that is over with now. So I hear it was a misprint or something. I don't know. I'm not going to get too into it now. To Thailand and the booming marijuana industry in Thailand right now. I did get a chance to get a little bit into President Biden's tweets on letting out all the prisoners that were indicted for marijuana and locked up right now in the United States for marijuana. So that's a huge step. So we're going in a big direction right now. When it comes to marijuana, it looks like in a good way, hopefully. When it comes to other things, questionable. But we're going to stick to marijuana for right now. So marijuana-based, Tragicamerica. We're still doing reviews. I reviewed Gelato 41 on the podcast, OG Kush, White 99 so far. I'm going to be doing some strains from Cookies that I'm going to be getting my hands on pretty soon, and Khalifa Kush. And I know I've been talking about this for a while, Khalifa Kush, but I'm going to get to smoke Khalifa Kush very soon because it is in True Leaf now. So it is in True Leaf in Florida, Khalifa Kush. So we're going to be still doing our strain reviews. We're still going to be keeping it marijuana based, but we're also going to talk about whatever else you want to hear or whatever else we want to talk about, and see what it evolves into. So for right now, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And thank you for letting me be me. Be blessed, be blazed, and I'm going to give you all one more hit for the road. Have an awesome day.